everyone. Today we have Chris Krause, who is the founder of NCSA College Recruiting. This business, which he started 23 years ago, was acquired in 2021 for over $200 million by Endeavor IMG, who is the global leader in entertainment and sports. And as a high school linebacker in a blue collar Chicago community, Chris received a lot of interest from dozens of Division I football programs, but got no scholarship offers. He took the matters into his own hands and became his first client, learning how to contact college coaches and promote his athletic and academic achievements. His hard work led to a full scholarship to play for Vanderbilt University and started a business all around college recruiting. Welcome to the EO Wonder podcast, Chris.
Thank you, Kalika. It's a pleasure to be on.
So tell everyone about you. We're talking about you just got back from Maui with your kids and you sold your business and seems like you're living the life.
Well, I've been really blessed. Thank you so much. It kind of really revolves around I grew up in a blue collar town, and I had a mentor that was my neighbor that got a scholarship to Illinois for basketball. And he kind of gave me some hope and some inspiration to want to pursue sports and as a means of a college education. And, I remember like in, fourth grade, I started playing football and I really got the bug and I got a lot of support from my parents. And, one thing led to another where I just started, I had a pretty solid high school career, and we didn't have a lot of exposure at the time. This was, in the early 80s. And I started to get letters from college coaches because I had a guy that was a linebacker that was a year older than me that got recruited by all the big Division I schools. So I got on the radar, but I got all these letters from these coaches, but no one told me what to do with them. And I figured everyone said your high school coach will do this for you, or if you're good enough, they'll find you. So I had this box of like hundreds of letters from, I had from Michigan, Notre Dame, Tennessee, I had all these letters, but I didn't know I figured I just sat back and waited. And then by the time my senior year came, I was reading in the newspaper about all these kids that were taking visits to colleges. I'm like, wait a minute, I got letters from those colleges. And so I started to read the letters and I said, well, if you're really interested in Michigan, call me, Bo Schembechler. I'm like, well, so I started picking up the phone and calling these coaches and said, I'm really interested. And I didn't, what do I do next? And the coaches would say, well, we didn't know you were interested, but send us a videotape. This was when videos were just starting. And luckily, the local cable company had filmed 4 or 5 of our games. So my dad and I got the 2 recorders and we made a little highlight tape and we sent it out. And I started getting airplane tickets in the mail to go visit campuses. So this was really late. And I almost missed this once in a lifetime opportunity. And that's the thing about recruiting is once it passes, you can never go back and do it again. And a couple of the schools said, we already made our full commitments to, our scholarships. We couldn't, Michigan, I was set to visit there and they already had their roster lined up in terms of the scholarships they could offer. But luckily Vanderbilt called and I flew down, took my first plane trip. I had never flown in an airplane before, went down to Nashville, didn't know what to expect and fell in love with Vanderbilt. It was just such a great fit. And they offered me a scholarship that weekend. And a couple of days later, I made the commitment, and it was like so, it was like the fate of the gods that it just like luckily it happened, and I'm like this, had I done nothing, I would have gotten 0. Instead, I got to play in the SEC and got a full scholarship and got a degree from one of the best schools in the world. So I was very lucky. But the fact that I figured if it could happen to me, it could happen to anybody, and that's what gave me some really food for thought on this whole recruiting process. And after I graduated, I did internships and I had a bunch of really cool things that happened through Vanderbilt. The internship program and the human development program was incredible. So I was able to go working with a management consulting firm and a sales consultant firm. So I got this set of skills that were really, I didn't realize how important, but if you could, be at work as a sales consultant and a management consultant, you can become pretty marketable. And but I ended up using those skills to start NCSA. And we said, right now the technology was, before we would send things through the mail to college coaches, and that led me to my first business venture to learn the recruiting process. And technology kicked in, and that was when we were able to really start to accumulate and build databases on colleges and start to communicate with the athletic departments and really start to streamline this clunky process, which was always kind of a very, every time you talked about student athletes, you ask them, no one ever started too soon or had too much help. It's always, I started too late, I wish I would have known. It's your senior year and you're scrambling, when really freshman year is the time you really need to start doing some things.
And you also are the author of Athletes Wanted, right? You created a guidebook for
Yeah.
everyone. I mean, you've really helped a lot of people. I mean, tens of hundreds, right? Thousands of people that you've helped
Yeah,
get
we will.
scholarships.
Well, this year we'll probably put close to 100,000 student athletes into college. Yeah,
100,000.
it's
Wow.
getting at that point where it's almost 100,000 a year, and it's amazing. I mean, when you talk about, there's about 500,000 kids that play, sports at the collegiate level. So, we're getting to the point where we're more than half of the kids that are going on to play are coming through the NCSA portal, and I just am so proud of the team at NCSA. They took what we built and just continue to grow it and really do it with a whole mantra of give back, to make sure that it's a thing called, I call it leadership. It's empowering leaders through the life lessons of sports, and it helps them get ahead and also helps them give back. And that's been the spirit of our culture.
I think we were talking earlier, how didn't you do like birthing of giants or something like that? And did you
I didn't
do?
do birthing a joint. I haven't had the pleasure, but I know all about it though.
Or you were talking about how you're watching people like make tens of millions of dollars. You're like, oh gosh, I wish I could do that. And you did it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
When we and as far as EO, I remember
Yeah.
my first university I went to in Montreal. It would have been in, I think, around 19, maybe late, probably around 2000, or close to the time I started NCSA, probably 2000, 2001, probably. And we went to, I think it was in Montreal, and I actually met Brian Scudamore from 1-800-GOT-JUNK. And these guys were in there, and they're like, man, these guys are on a rocket ship. They're a $50 million company. I'm like, oh my God, I was at like probably 2 million in revenue. I'm like, one day we'll be like them. And sure enough, it took a little time, but we did it.
And you surpassed it. And it was all centered around digital transformation. Is that, you think, the key?
Yeah, yeah. It was timing. It was kind of like being at the right place at the right time. We started to really leverage the internet, and people would, I remember, because I was working with another company at the time that was kind of a lifestyle business, where you'd kind of work, you'd get a little territory and you'd help the kids locally at your high school. And it wasn't like really, it was like a part-time job. And I was doing that because that's kind of learned about how the business worked. And I'm like, you guys, there's a thing called, faxing was starting to become available. So I started doing wind faxes. So with, this lifestyle business that turned into working with maybe 15, 20 kids a month. So you work with maybe a couple hundred kids a year was what my capacity was, because that's all I could handle as one person. I found it to be scalable, because instead of making a resume, putting it in the mail, sending it to a few hundred colleges, and then crossing your fingers, which was kind of the old way of doing it, I could then take a student athlete, write a profile, take my little WinFax program, send it out to 100 schools overnight, and all of a sudden it's like Christmas in the morning. You got 60 colleges that are interested in a student athlete. I'm like, wait a minute, we have something here. But then we started making it even more efficient with emails, because instead of just sending it to an athletic department, I could send it to 12 football coaches at that school to make sure everyone knew who the student athlete was. And then that really started to gain a lot of traction for us. And to be able to get feedback from the college coaches to know what they want academically and athletically, to make sure that we're not sending them unqualified kids, and really start to build that brand of trust of student athletes that are real student athletes, not like the fake ones that just came about in the last couple of years. You hear about the fake resumes that families were making to help get their kids in. But that shined a lot of light as to really sports can be a great vehicle to get you into a good school if you're a real student athlete.
Right, not superimposing your body on
Yeah.
like someone who's pretending to
Yeah.
play water polo or
Right.
something.
Right. Exactly.
Right. So what do you think it is about, that separates you from all the other entrepreneurs. You actually took your business from, let's say, zero, right? Because you started it,
Yeah, mhm.
to $200 million. Like, what is the key? I'm sure that there are many keys, but
Wait, a couple big drivers, Kalika, were for us. I mean, surrounding myself with people who want to learn and grow EO. EO was huge for me. Vern Harnish, that roadmap of the Rockefeller habits. I literally took that book and kind of said, okay, this was kind of my game plan. That was a big part of it. The other part was building a vision. I think, a lot of people can, sell, and a lot of people can, know numbers and manage people, but there aren't a lot of people that have the vision, which is that entrepreneur is the supplier of the vision. And the more, like we always talk about EO, it's like you're either working on the business or in the business. And after I made a goal to get the business to $1.5 million in 5 years. That was my goal. And once I wrote the goals down and I started working on it, in 18 months, we were already at 2 million. So I'm like, okay, this is growing. Where do I go next? And a real smart guy who I met, who is a consultant, guy named Joe McClinsky, he went to, let's see, Johns Hopkins. He's a football player at Johns Hopkins, and he helped me put a vision together. He goes, well, he goes, I'm like worried about steering the ship here. I'm like, okay, there's icebergs and we're going. I don't want to run it. I don't want to run this thing in the ground. Well, he says, well, instead of worrying about where you're going, worrying about hitting something, goes, where do you want to go with it? And I'm like, that makes good sense. So in 2002, we put together a 2012 vision, a 10-year vision. And it was probably the most pivotal thing that I did for NCSA, because I was able to sit down and put pen to paper, write out in 10 years where we would be if everything went right, dream big. And actually IMG was part of being partners with that in that 10-year plan, which is crazy. We would be a $50 million company by 2012. And we would have partners, and really kind of mapped out the whole thing, how it would work. And I shared the vision with we probably had maybe a staff of 10 or 12 people at the time. But that vision became kind of our rally point, 2012. We all talked about 2012 and how many, and then when we were recruiting, we would share our vision with people. We're like, wow, I want to be a part of that. So we were able to recruit incredible people who want to be a part of something much bigger. And so we had all these athletes coming in. It's like in the NCAA, all the 400,000 kids going pro in something other than your sport. Well, athletes are really attractive. And we actually started to get some kids after 4 years who went to college that we put them through that would come back and work for us. So we started becoming our own little ecosystem. We would grow these cool little plants, and they'd get big and strong, and then they'd come back and work for NCSA. And so by building that vision, it would enable us to kind of have a roadmap as to where we wanted to go. And that was probably the most critical thing. And by 2008, we were growing so rapidly, we knew we were going to hit the 50 million number. We had to make a 2020 vision, actually, was the next one that we did to get us to 200. And that's pretty much how it worked out.
And what's crazy is that 2008, I mean, what was happening in the world in 2008?
Oh, it was falling apart, right?
But
The
not your business.
yeah, when people became more focused on how to really maximize athletic potential. So our business grew during those times because families, all their 401 savings plans and college plans were evaporating.
They needed a backup plan.
Yeah. Yeah. So we became a good backup plan. So we were able to thrive through all that.
Oh, that is just so thrilling.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to picture you. You're here in Chicago. You're playing football, and you're taking the extra step. Like, it takes a lot of bravery and courage to be able to reach out to people, right? I mean, if you think of, like, my kids are in high school right now, right?
Mhm.
What that's like. Would you call that bravery, courage, resilient? Like, what is
Probably
that
not,
quality?
or else part of it was, I would say it was more out of like desperation, kind of. I was like desperate. It's like my only way of going to college was a scholarship for football. I would have gone to Alaska to play football on a scholarship, because my parents, we, I mean, we were a blue collar town. This is, so anyone who's watching could see this. This is my high school football team. I don't know if
Oh,
anyone
yeah.
can pick me
Yeah.
out. right?
Yeah, the only white kid.
Yeah, I was the only white kid on my team.
Only
And,
white kid.
and the reason I held this picture so close to my heart is that it's kind of the NCSA starts with that group of freshman football players because every kid on that team was good enough to play in college somewhere. We were 9-0. We won the conference. We were incredible. And every kid on that team was good enough to play somewhere. And then all of a sudden, by my senior year, 3 or 4 of the kids were off the team because of grades or gangs and drugs, and just didn't have a lot of support at home. And I started to look at, I was the only kid to get a scholarship out of that group. And so after going to college, I'm like, God, what, and I know 3 or 4 of those guys on this team right now are no longer with us. And it's really sad, but I'm thinking instead of me being the exception to the norm, it should be, an expectation is like, you should, we have to get these kids in a mindset where you're going to go to college and you're going to play in college and you're going to come back and help and be a role model for others to come back. So I went back and coached and did a lot of things and tried to help out, but that was kind of my why. My Simon Sinek why is because we could change a community. If sports did this for me, one person, and if I was able to come back and give back, what if every one of those 19 went to college and came back? What would that community look like if everybody was a college graduate who came back and was successful and was a role model and mentored the other kids that would come through? That's kind of was the main driver behind why, and I think because people saw that was my why, that was what made people want to be a part of that, because it was never about the money. It was about empowering these kids. And the money came, but it was the result of what we did. It wasn't the why we did it.
And now you're on the board of directors of Vanderbilt.
Yeah, well, I'm helping out. I've been meeting with the chancellor and I've been doing a number of different things to help fundraise, and we're figuring out some things to be able to, with the NIL and the collective space, we have some really cool things I've been helping them build. So I'm really excited about what we're going to do at Vanderbilt, but also with the internship program we put together through EO. We have 100 student athletes that are doing internships in the summers in Nashville through EO and through YPO and through Vanderbilt. So that's been a big driver of mine, is empowering these leaders, helping them get connected with these career opportunities afterwards, which has been fun working with EO people as well.
And I love, like you were saying, it was like this ecosystem, because Vanderbilt gave you a full scholarship. And now look how much you're giving back to them, right? It's like a give and take.
Yeah, well, it's like they took a chance on me, so I feel obligated to give back to them, and doing so not just financially, but I think there's the cool thing is with Endeavor and with IMG, we have all the pieces in place to really put together a best-in-class system where the athletes can get, not only they can start to make money off their name, image, and likeness through local businesses and through sponsorship opportunities, but also connect those student athletes with opportunities to network and also get connected with career opportunities and internship opportunities as well.
Yeah, so you had mentioned NIL. So NIL is name, image, and likeness, which is something new that came up because previously college students could not benefit.
Right, yeah. Yeah, through a lot of years of trying to navigate these waters, it finally became clear that the student athletes, the colleges make billions of dollars off the student athletes, and the student athletes, in a lot of cases, are coming, from financially disadvantaged areas, and they only can get room, board, books, and tuition was basically the rules of what you could have. So a lot of these kids would come from, North Chicago, like I came, and I didn't have, I caddied in the summer and saved, I saved about $1,200. That was my savings, and I had to get through college on $1,200 my freshman year. That's what it cost me. I had to, get back and forth home for holidays. I had to, I was able to, buy my mom a birthday present. I was able to maybe go out and, and buy some clothes. And I mean, it wasn't, $1,200 for a year at Vanderbilt it was pretty lean when a lot, there was kids at Vanderbilt that had, $1,200 a month on their Munchie Mart card where they could just go get free meals. So it was, it's hard for an athlete to, if you don't, to have your parents come down and see you play. And so, it was a kind of the haves and have nots. It's like the athletes, they say, oh, well, we have free food and all this type of things, but also it's not like, you have money for a car, you save up and maybe get a car, pay money for gas. And, you used to have to pay for phone bills, long distance calls back then. I mean, it was it was living on a shoestring budget. Go on spring break, everyone else is going to Cancun. We're, trying to all jump in a car and maybe get down to Fort Lauderdale if we're lucky.
Yeah, and I think it builds resilience, right? I mean, would you go back and do it differently?
I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't change a thing because I think what it helped me really start to learn how to budget. And I didn't have a credit card, so it's like you paid for what you had in your bank account. And I think a lot of, in today's world where credit was so easy and you could get, everyone gets lines of credit, and now everybody's in debt, and everybody's, interest rates go up, and now they're, the amount of interest they're paying is astronomical. And it's hard for a kid to get ahead if you're behind in, you got to pay for school, you got to pay back your school loans, and then you got to come back and you got to pay your credit cards loans. And then all of a sudden it's like, how much are you making? And then you're looking to try to get a job. And well, my first paycheck went towards saving money to go towards a home. Everyone else's first paycheck is going paying back debt. And I think as an athlete, those, learning how to manage your time right, learning how to get the work done, work before play. Although we had a great time in college, it was a lot of work, 40 hours a week of training table and lifting weights and meetings and practices and travel, and then your homework and going to class and all those things on top of it. While, a lot of other kids are out at the frat, playing hacky sack, drinking beer. We were out, working, to get to pay through school.
Or even having a job, right? Like you didn't have an opportunity to have a job.
We couldn't have it. Yeah, you couldn't, if you're playing a sport, you couldn't have a job. So, football was our job.
Wow. And now you're taking this legacy into athleadership. So tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, athleadership has been a concept that I kind of came up with through NCSA. Was really the whole idea of the lessons of sports and how this athleadership culture, reading about, corporate cultures, and really learning about how important it is to have an identity, and how that, helps in branding and in recruiting and retention of your talent. And the whole concept of athleadership became really evident, where we would, help kids go to college, and all of a sudden they would come back and ask for jobs. And we're like, wait a minute, these are the kind of kids we want. And there would be sometimes people would come and apply for a job, or we even get hired, and we found a lot of times their work ethic wasn't as good. They didn't understand the concept of teamwork. It was, me versus we. They weren't involved in leadership in terms of doing the things when no one's watching. It was like, trying to get the credit themselves, versus when the team gets the credit, everybody wins. So building that culture of athletes that graduate from college that want to be a part of that. Athletes want to be a part of a team, because they know you can do a lot more as a team than you can individually. People will work harder because of the teammate that they love and that they want to support than they will just by themselves. And when you put that power together, focused with a goal in mind. So that's when we had this 2012 plan. We would say, okay, every year we would come and celebrate. At the end of the year, we would say, okay, we wanted to do 6 million in revenue. Guess what? We did 8. And then everyone claps and says, yay. And then we wanted to do this. And guess what? Everybody gets a bonus, and everyone says, yay. And so every year, being accountable, as a leader, I was accountable, say, hey, this is our vision. We said we would be at 6 million. Here's the numbers. And we would post it up there. And so we have that leaderboard, that scoreboard for our athletes to watch and see how we're doing against the competition became ourselves. And then all the sales guys and girls had, their little individual contests that were going on. So it was it's a high drive culture, and it's not for everybody. And some people don't, they don't want to be accountable, or they want to, just get the job and punch the clock and get their work done and go, which is fine. But when you build a corporate culture based on, the whole idea of we have a vision, we know where we're going, we know how we're going to get there through our core values, we know our job, what the job is, my job is, and I'm going to make sure I do my job, and my teammate's going to do his job. And it becomes a safe place to take some risks and try something new and try to get better, knowing that if you fail, everyone has your back. That was one of the big things, because for us to grow, we had to really kind of find better ways to operate and better ways to scale. And we encouraged, part of our core values were make your mark. Like, what are you going to do to help NCSA get to 2020? And everyone had their eyes not just in their work, but on the business, trying to figure out in their department what can make things streamline better. How can our service get a little bit better? How can we get better at collections? And how can we get better at communicating with a college coach? So when everyone's out looking for these opportunities, and then they get rewarded for doing above and beyond, that's the kind of culture that really helped us go from 0 to 50 million to now over 200 million in revenue, and being a part of the Endeavor IMG family.
So it was like you created a game and you were the coach.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah. That's so exciting.
Yeah. Well, and it was fun too, because as you get people that are aligned with your vision, after we did 2012, which was my vision, I brought all our leaders together and I said, we got to make a 2020 vision. It's not just me anymore, it's you guys. So everyone took pen to paper in their own departments. And this new vision became, there was about probably 10 or 15 leaders within NCSA of the management team, all got a chance to put their DNA into the 2020 vision. So now you have 15 people invested in, there's 4 or 5 of the people that were part of that team are still running the company and divisions and having huge success. One of them, Lisa Strassman, she played ice hockey at Yale. She's the president of the company. And, she started back in 2002, I think. And now she's running the place now.
Wow. Well, and like you said, because they have that foundation of teamwork, right? Teamwork, or they say teamwork makes the dream work, right?
Yes, absolutely. Well, it's funny because there's the guy at IMG who runs IMG is a Vanderbilt soccer player. So it's it's all these kind of serendipitous connections of athletes and, my alma mater, and how this has come together to be able to, really, become this huge platform of connectivity, which my vision is to start to help take all that relationship capital built with these athletes and help them get to the next level, whether it be through NCSA or whatever their career passion is, but help them find their passion and get connected with companies that are really focused on a culture of high performance and teamwork, because that corporate culture is where these athletes want to go. So my job now is to kind of find these opportunities and help deliver them to their next career, their 2.0 after college, because that's the college is the first step. But these leaders, when they get into an organization that has a structure of vision and of teamwork and of trust and fun, that's where everyone wants to go. And plus they can make great careers out of it too.
So are you also going to be creating a platform for them, or has it already been created?
Well, that's what I'm working on.
Nice. Well,
that's like my 2.0 is I've been meeting with some people. I have a number. I've been meeting with all the people at Vanderbilt. I've been meeting with people with Endeavor and IMG, and we have some pretty cool things that we're working on right now, which I think will be my 2.0 is still being written right now, but I'm really excited about it.
That is so fun, because you're continuing your legacy. You did this, you've reached your goal, and now what's next?
Yeah.
right? That's
And
so
the
exciting.
next is, well, this whole leadership platform has been, that's a word that I invented it, and it's going to be in the dictionary pretty soon. It's already in the Urban Dictionary, but the idea of this whole leadership platform is, how do we empower leaders through the life lessons of sports and help them get ahead and give back? And I think, the whole idea of LinkedIn for athletes to help them get connected, because as you know, as a woman who is a successful entrepreneur, with women entrepreneurs and leadership, most of them played sports in college or at the high school level. And it's a lot of those lessons that I think have helped, help all of us become better leaders in business and in this great country of ours, where entrepreneurship is really something that we are blessed with here, that we're responsible for growing this and protecting this great project we call the United States of America, and how we're able to help our families and grow a culture of freedom and be able to be really proud of that.
So there are a lot of entrepreneurs that are listening that probably have lots of kids in this looking for college scholarships. What would you recommend that they do first and foremost? Do they sign up to your website or what's the process like?
Well, the first thing they need to do is, I think, understand that over 80% of the opportunities in college for sports aren't at the big Division I schools. So everyone says, "Oh, I'm going to play Division I," or if you can't play Division I. Division I is just a label for a few, 100 schools. The reality is there's 1,700 colleges that have sports. And if you look at the US News and World Reports, more than half of the colleges that are in the top 50 US News and World Report aren't Division I schools. The Ivy League schools aren't classified as Division I, and the Division III schools like University of Chicago and Carnegie Mellon and Johns Hopkins and all of these great universities aren't necessarily putting 100,000 people in the stadiums for football games. So once you start to realize that 80% of those opportunities are out there that aren't Division I, and you expand your horizons to look, if you really, really want to play and have sports to be a part of your college, your college experience, I believe there's an opportunity for anyone, as long as if they're playing at the varsity level in high school and they really want that as an experience. Now you need to just learn where to go and what level academically and what level athletically you can play at. And at ncsasports.org, on that website, there's a ton of great information by sport, where a family could look at swimming and say, what does the swimming times look like for a kid that's going into Division I, Division II, Division III? Or what's soccer look like? What is it? What club teams are they playing at? What ODP levels are they playing at? For football or baseball, what's their pop time for a catcher, or what's their 40 time for football? And there's all these key performance indicators that you can look at as an eighth grader. And if you're looking at it as an eighth grader, you're saying, wait a minute here, I can start to set goals. Problem is, people don't start looking at these things till they're junior and senior, and it's like, well, God, I wish I would have worked a little harder my sophomore year, because I could have maybe done that. But if you really want to play sports at the collegiate level, and you start to set some goals as someone as you're getting into high school, freshman, sophomore year, it becomes a lot more attainable. And also the academics become a lot more in the focus, because a lot of the kids don't realize that colleges recruit student athletes more on academics than athletics. If you have really good grades and good athletic ability, there are hundreds of schools that'll want you. If you're a really great athlete and you're a poor student, there's going to be very few schools that are going to take you, because you're going to probably have to go to a junior college. So when you package all this, I say that student athletes, student first, get a great GPA, go to school, learn how to work hard, and set goals as a student athlete. But then the next phase is teaching them how to advocate for themselves. And I think that's where recruiting comes in, where a lot of people don't have a playbook. Athletes Wanted is a great playbook. You get a digital copy of it. You can get it online at Amazon, wherever, but you can get that information is available for you out there, and learn and have a conversation with your student athlete to, talk to them about how much do you love sports? Because if you really love sports, there's no better way to go through the college experience, because it teaches you all the things you need to learn. But also, I think it's a great resume builder if you talk to a CEO And in my book, Athletes Wanted, I interviewed over 100 CEOs, and I asked them, would you rather recruit a 2.5 student who played sports for 4 years in college, or a 4.0 who played no sports in college? And 99 out of 100 said, give me the 2.5 grinder who played 4 years of sports, because I know what I'm getting. And that's kind of a good testament to, what the lessons you learn in terms of work ethic and teamwork and goal setting and grit, which is grit is, I think, the word that kind of really sums up, when you get a student athlete, are they going to probably, if they got a little cough or a little sniffles, or if they're not feeling well, are they going to show up and give you 100%, or are they going to call it in? And I'll bet on the athlete every time that played sports, that went to college, that grinded through, because I think that's a trait that it separates the okay from the great people that are going to be leaders in our society.
Yeah, and I do believe that sports really do filter out those people, because if you aren't a team player, it's almost just like the energy of that sport is just like they will just ostracize you, right?
They get pinched
Right?
out fast.
Right? Right?
Yeah, yeah,
Right?
yeah, yeah,
Right? If they
100%.
don't have a good attitude, you're like,
Yeah, it's funny when you get enough people with those core values, the team, team LG, team first attitude. If you're not in that, if somehow you got through the hiring process, you're going to get pinched. You're not going to be there long if you're not able to adapt and start to get it. Because when you're around other people, they're not going to sit around and want to have somebody with the me attitude when we're talking we.
yeah, absolutely. So you talked a little bit about pricing when we were doing our pre-podcast call. You said it was like 12 to $1,800. Like, what's the pricing like?
It's changed. We've gotten a lot more efficient, and we have economies of scale, and it's kind of more of a freemium model. The idea is we lead with education. Go in, put a profile together. That's free. You can go online and get access to all the information. We have what's called the power rankings, where you can look at each college and find out where they're at academically and athletically, and really learn about what's at stake, because it's a commitment. It's not everybody can play. I always say, if you want to separate yourself from 96% of all other college graduates, you play a sport. So it puts yourself in an elite class if you do play. But if you're not up for that challenge, if you're not up for that work, it may not, you may just want to go to college and join a fraternity or sorority and have that experience, especially if mom and dad's paying for it, take the ride. It's a nice vacation. But if you want to take your education to another level, I think having a sport experience along with college is something that will enhance it. And in terms of the pricing of NCSA, it's, if you really want to play, then there are a number of different programs. We've never turned down a family for financial reasons. That is something I'm really proud of. And they have what's called an all-in award that we apply. We have hundreds a month that get scholarship on and get our services for free. So if you're in a financial situation, don't let that hold you back. Call NCSA, apply to an all-in award. But if you have some financial resources, I know they have payment plans where you can go in. The average family, I think, invests around $1,200 to $1,800 over 4 years. So it can be, $50-$60 a month. I mean, it's less than, the average family gets about $20,000 in scholarship per year times 4 years. And the average family invests about, $1,200 to $1,800 on average, depending on, we do all the video services for the families. We do all the editing for the families. We also have these incredible coaches, student athletes that play their sport, that talk to the colleges every day, that teach the student athletes how to make that phone call and practice with them. So there's a lot of really cool educational things where the student athletes can learn how to pick up the phone, how to advocate for themselves, and really how to start to interview like they're going to interview for the rest of their life when they go get a job. This is kind of an interview process. So it's kind of a precursor in a safe place for a student athlete to really start to get some confidence, get a script together, read from a script, use their personality, be accountable, call when you say you're going to call, and talk to the college coach. Because one of the things that a lot of people say is like, oh, my dad's going to call the coach. Well, college coaches don't want to hear from dads and moms. Think about it. They want to hear from the student athletes. So the idea is, if all these other families that are out there here, my kid's so good, you should come see him, he's great. I'm like, well, if your kid's so good, why isn't he calling me, or she calling me? And it's like, and if I'm a college coach, who would I rather recruit? The kid who had the courage to pick up the phone, look me in the eye, and when I go to campus and say, I want to play for you, coach. What do I need to do to play for you? Or the kid that's behind dad saying, yeah, my kid's so great, you should recruit him. And I'm like, I'm a coach. I'm like, I got to deal with this clown for the next 4 years. I don't think so. When I got another kid that I know is showing, driving himself to my camp and is in the weight room showing me that they're committed.
Yeah, and I noticed, like, when you see all the people who are playing college, like, some of them aren't, like, the biggest, the tallest, like, they could be small athletes, but they've got great attitudes, right? So
Absolutely. It's funny, you hear about all these, great walk-on stories. The guy who just bought the Phoenix Suns was like a walk-on at Michigan State. I mean, there's, you hear about these, these great stories. There's the billion-dollar coach or whatever. There's a guy that was a coach at like Columbia, who was a small, undersized linebacker and who was just a great. He ended up, being a consultant for Steve Jobs and all the Amazon. I mean, it's funny to start to see how coaching has really trickled in to corporate cultures of some of the biggest and most successful companies in America.
yeah, and everyone loves Ted Lasso,
Yeah,
obviously.
Ted Lasso, there you go. Yeah. That's a great show. I love it.
Yeah. So what are you looking forward to this year? It's 2023.
Well, 2023, I'm settling in with my family in Manhattan Beach. My son's playing football at Miracosta High School. So
Linebacker,
he
like
played
you?
he played defense. He played a center and defensive tackle. So he
Nice.
actually got to start for part of the year, and they won their conference. So he's
Nice.
excited for football, which this is his first time playing football, and so he's going to be a sophomore next year. So he's lifting weights, and I'm trying not to get too excited, but I'm kind of letting him be his own guy, and he's lifting weights with his buddies now, and he's getting big and getting muscles and all that. So that's been exciting to see him start to really enjoy sports. So I'm looking forward to seeing him grow there. And I'm also looking forward to see what happens with NIL and with my new project I'm working on with Vanderbilt. I think it's been the Wild West. No one's done it right, but I think if structured correctly, we can build something that will be world-class, best in class in how student athletes interact with building their brand. And also, I think looking at entrepreneurship and leadership, I think it's a great opportunity for kids to learn about how they can start to build their value proposition and build their skill sets with digital and with their digital footprint, and how they can be influencers, or people are starting to look a lot closer at what they're putting out there and being more careful and more thoughtful about what's being put out there, because what they put out there can't be taken back. And I think the earlier they're learning that, they're hopefully making better decisions that are going to set them up for success better.
Right. No more like not drinking crazy or whatever,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, right. Going to clubs, right?
Yeah, the things that people used to put on there didn't realize that they're costing them jobs now. And the things they thought that were funny and pranks, or maybe they weren't as, a lot more, people are more sensitive to to what they're putting up as being offensive to some people. So it's I think it's a pot. Obviously there's people take things too far sometimes, but in general, I think it's nice to be mindful about what you're doing, because it's your brand, and do you want to be associated with positivity or negativity? And that's it's your choice. And some people put up real positive things, but some people people put negative things up there, and they learn their lesson the hard way sometimes, and which is sad, but it happens.
So athletic directors and I guess admissions directors, they definitely Google you. I mean, is that I thought that there were too many applications. Like they actually Google the person.
Yeah, I mean, if anyone that we're looking at, I mean, you want to find out what you're getting, and it's a lot of people can can give you a fake resume, as you were learning in Congress. It's like, we'll put
True.
anything on there, right?
True.
So and it's pretty easy to find out. I mean, if you Google somebody, you can find out, is this person real? Is this person fake? Or do a bunch of lawsuits come up immediately? I mean,
Right.
I mean, it's I think it's just part of, it's a smart thing to do right now. I mean, I've friend, people that look at different companies, and, I immediately look at Yelp and look at, Glassdoors and look at things to say there's information out there. Now, granted, it's not the tell all end all, but if everything you pull up is, 1 star, 0 star, they rip me off, I would maybe start looking somewhere else versus if everyone, if there's, 5,000 reviews and, 4,500 are 5-star, I'm going to probably lend a little more trust to that organization.
Yeah, social proof. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
one thing I also tell my clients, because we do a lot of branding and reputation management, is 4 3/4 star is actually perfect, because you shouldn't have 5 stars unless you were a hospital, because
Yeah.
people know that, like there's always something that you could improve on,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
and it feels real,
Yeah,
right?
there's always somebody's gonna maybe have an axe to grind, or someone gets fired, and say, I mean, there's always going to be something. But if like like you said, like 4 3/4, yeah, that's probably, otherwise, do you have enough, yeah, to actually be a statistically valid? You can't just have like 5 stars and that's it. The more you have in there, but there's going to be there's always going to be someone with some good. We look at criticism as an opportunity to get better. So
One of my friends has a restaurant, and he once got a 1 star review because the person next to the patron was talking too loud.
wow.
Nothing about the food, nothing about
Yeah.
the person. They had no
Yeah.
control that you got a
Yeah.
1 star review, right?
Yeah.
It's
Well,
crazy.
there's always going to be somebody that is having a bad day, maybe, or that not when you nothing's perfect, but the idea is but at least you have the ability to have a voice. And I think as humans, we start to know what to filter out, and what when you get enough good reviews, that's probably a good sign.
Yeah. So if people want to contact you or contact NCSA, like I know you mentioned your website, could you just list the websites that they should be contacting you at?
Yeah, well, ncsasports.org. That's the best place to go to start learning about college recruiting and start to put a digital profile together. ncsasports.org. And I can get my email. It's just ck@chriskrause.com. If anyone wants to reach out to me, if I could help fellow EO has been unbelievable to me. And so when you asked me to be on a show, and if for EO, I'm always going to say yes, because I really think that EO, we would not have been where I am today without EO. So thank you, EO, and thank you all the members. And I think that learning from the others that are going through it has been invaluable to me. And if I can give back, I'm happy to. So thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Chris. And hopefully, when you have athleadership up, we'll also have you back on the podcast and
Yeah.
find out your 2.0.
Absolutely, absolutely. We'll get we'll have a book associated with it. It'll be a fun branding thing. Maybe you'll help me brand it.
You got it. Will do.
Sounds good.
Thank you so
Awesome.
much, Chris.
Thank you so much, and mahalo.
Mahalo. Shout out.